Hey Michael, I just wanted to make this little video that kind of showed the design and how it worked. This is an outdoor greenhouse setup. Now this is made to kind of fit on the back um, cement slab that you guys have. Meant to be small, short enough so that it doesn't, it's not visible to the neighbors. Also kind of low impact as far as environmental design, but yet high outputting. So this is a bucket method. And I guess there's some sterilization methods I was going to cover in a little more detail, but from your understanding, you want to move on to someone else or somewhere else of learning. That's totally fine. So I'm just going to cover just how this greenhouse works. And so there's two parts. One part is the frame, the housing that kind of all this stuff goes into. These are 5-gallon buckets right here. So this top portion between here and here is wrapped outside with polyplastic. You can put furring strips right over the top of the polyplastic that kind of secure it in place. Um, and then this lower portion right here actually has a screen. Now the screen is super important because you need to keep bugs out of there, but you still want to vent the air. So the screen sure makes it pretty easily. You don't want this to be sitting on grass for the same reasons. You don't want bugs to have access to it. So if it is going to go on grass, you do want it to be pretty level, and you also want to have a tarp down. Okay, yeah, so screen held in place around the bottom with furring strips, and then between here and here all the way around, use polyplastic. Now the same concept applies to the upper portion. Basically, there are furring strips that secure poly over the top of this, and then this whole assembly is able to open. Let's see here. So then there's the air handling system. And the way the air handling system works is you have a diaphragm pump. So a diaphragm pump, uh, well, I mean, you can get them at Tractor Supply Co. You can find them. There's another person called has one called Mist King, which has little different controllers that allow you to control either with a cycle timer or with what do they call it? With a humidification thing, and it tracks temperature and humidity. It's pretty neat. They're originally for reptiles. So you can also buy them. I know they have ones at Fleet Farm, and basically what you do is you get T fittings with a spray head nozzle. And the spray heads, the Mist Kings kind of all come as a kit. Otherwise, you can assemble your own if you have a little ingenuity. So this portion down here acts as a reservoir that the diaphragm pump attaches to the outside. It has a tube that goes inside of the ductwork from above, and then it is placed. So you have to get some zip ties and kind of tie it to the purlin, this top bar up here through the polyplastic. So this is 6-inch diameter poly tubing, and yeah, this is all going to be set up so that the water, any excess water, is going to drain back into this reservoir. The mist heads are going to go on the top of the poly tubing, and then there are going to be holes punched on the sides of the poly tubing. So air is forced in through I use an AC Infinity. They're really nice because you can adjust the CFMs on them pretty specifically. If you want to buy the really fancy controller, you can do that. Otherwise, you can just get the one that has 8 different steps. Uses a process called pulse width modulation. Anyways, they work absolutely wonderfully. I absolutely highly recommend them. So the way this works is fresh air is pumped in from outside through this punched poly duct, and then there's a misting humidification system inside of the punched poly duct that allows the drainage to go drain back into the reservoir. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, another important consideration is that this needs to have some sort of coarse filter over it. It doesn't need to be HEPA filtered. It just has to be a filter that is coarse, but you don't want it to get sucked into the blower. So they have coarse inline filters that you can get. You can also just buy coarse filter from the hardware store and strap it over there and secure it with a zip tie. It's going to need to be changed every so often, but it's pretty clear when that needs to be done. So you've got coarse filtered air going in through the either 4 or 6-inch duct. You can either one is up to you. I prefer a 6-inch blower because with a 6-inch duct you get more space for humidification, and if you get the AC Infinity you have more adjustment as far as CFM. And it also costs about the same, with the fittings just being a few extra dollars. Let's see. The other thing that I would recommend, it's not entirely necessary. So basically, the top part's wrapped in polyplastic, the lower portion is wrapped in polyplastic, and the very, very bottom has netting. So the air comes in through the blower only. It gets pushed down around the buckets that have the mushrooms growing in them. Yeah, and this is, I mean, each of these produces a considerable amount of mushrooms. And just in this scenario, this little setup right here. Oh, so the dimensions, I need to cover that. I wish I could have you over the phone to discuss some of this stuff, but, that's totally fine. Doesn't seem like you're very interested in that. And again, I apologize for the inconvenience. There's a lot going on. Design work is definitely an added thing that's a little hard to schedule in. Usually consulting is just done Saturday, Sunday evening. Okay, so these are 96 inches, so 8 feet. This piece right here is 48. Obviously, you can customize the lengths to however you want. There's a few other little modifications you can do. Some people like to do a recirculating system, so they have two blowers. One is a recirculating fan and an intake fan. So the way that works is you have another T here that allows you to, the reservoir always goes last. The recirculation fan would go just before the humidification T. And so you take up air, you'd have another blower just after it that would push air through here and kind of recirculate while also adding air, if that makes any sense. Yeah, again, I guess it's kind of hard to answer any questions, but just doing the best I can to explain everything. Let's see, starting off substrates, you can go to the hardware store, or not the hardware store, the pet store. There's a really good video by another person. I can't really remember the name of him right now, but you can use, I think it's called ash. It's the same bedding wood chips that you use. And there's another process for expanding spawn onto wood chips, a different kind. Aspen, that's what aspen wood chips. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we never really got a chance to cover that. So this is the design. Hopefully it helps. It can produce a lot of mushrooms a week with a very, very minimal setup. There's some sterilization methods. I think I wanted to cover steam pasteurization and building one of those setups versus lime. But if you're going to do straw, I recommend lime. Otherwise, there's another way you can use it with a pallet and some other things. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see if you want to continue. If not, no big deal. I understand I'm pretty busy, but hopefully this is a good primer. Helps get you started. Yeah. All right. Take care, Michael. Bye.